All right, all right, all right. Welcome to another edition of Shabbat Lounge. This is Matt,
And Jake here.
and we are coming to you with another Torah portion.
Right. So if you're following along, you should be at Shelach, which
Send
is
you.
send you. Right. So this is Numbers chapter 13 through chapter 15.
So,
And this is our just high look at the Torah portions, give you a quick overview of some highlights, and encourage you to go read it for yourselves and see if maybe you can pull out some good messages for yourself.
that's right. And we certainly don't claim to have all the answers or to be an expert here. We are just students, Bereans of the Word, like you are as well. And we hope that you're searching the scriptures daily and trying to see the gems in here that Yahuwah has put before us.
Right.
So we find great value in studying the Torah. If you've never listened to us before, we find that by studying Torah, we find what our Father likes, what he doesn't like, and how to please him.
Right. And because we want to be becoming more like Yeshua, and so let's figure out what he knew.
That's right. That's right. And we're not doing this because we're trying to earn our salvation through works. That's not what this is about. But this is trying to please our Father and do our part to be, just do the things He wanted us to do.
Right.
So here we are. So thank you for being with us, and hopefully you're in some kind of Sabbath group where you go through the Torah portions and read them and study them and have a chance to talk about it, because we think it's super important to fellowship with other believers who are like-minded. And if you don't have a place, go to the fellowship finder, which you can find on our website. You can also find it on Psalm 119 Ministries. You can Google Sabbath Lounge for more information, but you can find other like-minded people all around the world.
Correct.
So,
And
anyway.
so, yeah. And while you're at it, hit that like and subscribe button, and you'll get notifications that a new episode has popped up whenever that happens.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So, little context from last week. And in Numbers 11, the people demanded to eat meat. Did they eat meat, Jake?
They ate so much meat that they became sick of the meat because Yah had brought a bevy of quails to them.
Mm-hmm. And then chapter 12, there's an attempted coup. And then chapter 13, where we find ourselves tonight or today, Yahweh is testing them.
Right. And so we may have gleaned over the attempted coup rather quickly in the last one, but basically Miriam and Aaron are a little upset with how Moses is doing things. Miriam gets kicked out of the camp, and then they have to hang out there till she's ready to come back in the camp.
Yeah. So definitely, attempted coup, but definitely questioning authority.
Yeah.
She had to deal with some consequence for her actions from that. So, and here we are, about 1 year has passed of wandering around the desert. And so we got to go back to the wedding here a minute, Jake. And so according to the wedding model, the bride and groom had 1 year where they didn't have to go to war.
Right.
And so like a year with each other, and that's what this represents. And now that year is over, and guess what? It's time to go to war.
Time for that husband to do his duty.
Yep. And so I think Scripture is clear that this is a test for the people. And let's see, this is the Scripture here that talks about what they were to do.
All right. So, and see the land, what it is, and the people that dwell therein, whether they be strong or weak, few or many, and what the land is that they dwell in, whether it be good or bad, and what cities they be that they dwell in, whether in tents or in strongholds, and what the land is, whether it be fat or lean, whether there be wood therein or not. And be ye of good courage, and bring of the fruit of the land. Now the time was the time of the first ripe grapes.
And Jake, I don't think it's too much of a stretch here in verse 20 to say, hey, he's basically saying, be bold and courageous, when you take those grapes out of that land
Right.
because you're taking someone else's grapes.
Right.
Just a side note,
Yeah.
somebody else has produced these grapes, and you're leaving with them, so you had to have some boldness to do that.
Yeah, and I think looking forward, he's like, once you see these grapes, you're gonna realize why I said that.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. You'll get it. All right. So, what does he even do this? So, Jake, how could this be like a test?
well, you see, Yahweh didn't know what was in the land, so he needed people to go in there with their
Oh,
people eyes and tell
did
them,
he?
and you know, ask the who, what, where, when, why, how,
I don't
and get
think
all the
so.
deets.
Yeah, I don't think so.
That's not
So
it.
clearly, y'all, he knew who was there. He knew he could see all this happening, and he knew exactly what they were going to find. And this wasn't about him; it was about the people.
Right.
And he wanted it. To me, it's kind of like a check to see where are their hearts really. So he had an idea, and he's like, "Well, this will tell me where they are."
Yeah, and I kind of think this is uh, borne out in a lot of Yah's discussions with Moses and Abraham. You see them asking him questions, and Yahweh appears to quote unquote change his mind, that kind of thing. But he knew how it was going to go ahead of time. He already knows how it's going to go. So when I see things like that, I look at it as a test to the person he's talking with or the person he's directing to do something.
Hmm.
It's, I know this is how it is, but when I ask you this, you'll have to search your heart and figure out if that's what you really think.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a test for them. And what do they find out that what do they find out in this test?
Well, we'll see that in just a second.
Okay.
The last thing I wanted to say is, Moses selected the leaders here, and it's like does he select the leaders they deserve? We don't know if Moses prayed about this, and Yah guides his hand and selects these people. I kind of think that, yeah, that makes sense that Moses probably did pray and consult the Father, or he was guided to pick the people he picked to
Yeah,
go
it
do
kind of
this.
ties into last week's
Yeah.
portion with the leaders they deserve,
Hmm.
as the people go astray, you know,
Yeah.
or as the leadership even goes astray and the people don't hold them accountable. It's still, well,
Hmm.
then that's what you get.
So I do want to go back one if I can figure out how to go back here. Apparently, I can't figure out how to do that, Jake.
Can
So,
you do this?
oh, I thought I did that and didn't go back. So, anyway, so he asked them very specifically these very specific things. He nowhere in here does he say, "Hey, I want your opinion. Do you think we can take the land?" That's not here.
I don't see that.
So he wants the facts. He wants the data, you know. So, but something. So Jake, I don't think we have to read this Matthew 13. People are pretty familiar with the parable of the sower. I think probably our audience is. So how could the people's heart be reflected in the parable of the sower?
So yeah, I think this kind of goes into what they're finding out in the testing, and they're finding that their heart is like the land that they are living in currently, and that it's not the fertile soil that Yeshua is talking about here.
Yeah,
It's
yeah. I mean, the land is so infertile that he has to feed them.
right.
So it's not abundant. It's clear this land is not abundant with wild game and trees and water running. Multiple times he has to give them
He's
water.
got to
And
import the food.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That's right. So, but yeah, I think there's definitely a good comparison, probably to the hard ground. So their
right.
hearts are like the hard ground in the parable of the sower. There's just no chance for that seed to take to get going. So, were they ready for the victory?
I think it bears out when they come back
Yeah,
from the
yeah,
from the promised land.
yeah. And I think that he wanted to see if these people had his heart. If these people had gotten anything. Like, I've been with you for a year. Surely a little bit rubbed off on you.
Right, and this is part of the test is, are you gonna have the faith that I can get you through a difficult
Yeah.
situation? Because your eyes are gonna tell you something, but you don't see, the flaming horses surrounding the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
So are you going to trust in the one who brought you out of Egypt, or your own lion eyes, basically?
Yeah. Yeah. So they survey the land and the people, and he basically says, "Tell me if they're strong, they're weak, they're few or many. Is the land good? Is it bad? Do they live in tents? They live in fortified wall cities? Is the land fertile?" So these are like kind of yes and no kind of questions that had quantitative numbers
Yeah.
associated with them.
Yeah, and Yah knows they're strong. The land is good. They're
Hmm.
living in fortified walls. The land is fertile. You know, so he
The odds
knows.
are against them,
Yeah,
in human perspective.
exactly. So it's kind of funny. He's like, maybe they're weak. I don't know. Why don't you go find
Yeah,
out?
go check it out. And there is a reason he calls them children of Israel, because I mean, this is kind of like what you might do with a child.
Yeah.
Go see what it's like. Tell me about it,
Yep.
and I'll help you.
So yeah, if you're a parent, learn some parenting advice
That's
from
right.
this.
That's right. So, Jake, did he just ask for facts? Do you think that's a safe assumption to say here?
I think so. I think he just wants them to stick with the facts,
Yeah.
and doesn't want their commentary and opinions.
Yeah. Yeah. And so when you break down, these are the guys, hopefully I spelled them all right. These are the people that went in as the spies. And when you break down the percentages of them, only 16.7% of all of them said, "Hey, we got this. Um, we can do this. No problem."
Yeah. So that's Joshua and Caleb,
Yeah.
and they're representing this remnant or narrow path of folks that, similarly when uh, the golden calf situation,
Yeah.
and they're like, who's on Yahweh's side? And you have
Hmm.
that remnant. It's the same kind of deal here.
Yeah. Yeah. And you think about 16.7%, that doesn't seem like a big number.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. If you took a poll,
mhm.
who is for
Yeah.
name your name your you know
Who's for ice cream?
yeah,
And 16.7% said they were not. I wouldn't believe it.
right.
So I'll
Exactly.
tell you that. But yeah, if 16.7% said something, you would not be very impressed and go, "Oh, yeah, that's everybody."
Yeah.
So,
We better change the way the whole country is running, because
yes.
16.7% of
Wait a
people
minute.
said
That may be
something.
happening now. Wait.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, Jake, how can you say they were blind and deaf to the truth and there was a famine of the word?
Well, because the word was Yah will provide, and Yah will protect us, and Yah is our salvation. Um, and so, that being the truth, they clearly didn't see that. They were blind and deaf to it. And so, that being the case, if they knew the word and they had it in their hearts, then they would have been filled and ready to go. But they weren't. There was a famine. So they may have been hearing the word, but they weren't listening to the
Hmm.
word, if you will.
Or they didn't believe that Yah was who he said he was.
Yeah, it's a lack of faith for sure, and giving in to the fear of the earthly, the worldly.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's well said. So they were blind guides. They had no vision. And, we do have the scripture, without vision, the people perish. And so look that up. Um, but this lack of faith is a seed that grows to rebellion, and see Korah coming soon. So um, they definitely give their opinion and come back and are like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa! I don't know about this," and and it's like a cancer that spreads in the camp. And does it say specifically? It does. The scripture does say it was an evil report,
Yeah.
and so I don't think it's too crazy to assume that people talk, because we talk today and they talked back then too.
Right. And it just it's like the pillow of the bag of feathers you dump out in the wind and then try to go pick them up. You run around saying a bunch of stuff and you can't get it back.
Do you
And
do that a lot? You go out in the
it,
woods and dump a bunch of feathers out and try to go chase them?
I usually dump them in my compost, but
No, that's
sometimes the wind takes them away.
yeah. Uh-huh.
But yeah, so when they come back and they don't know what they're doing, they don't trust, and they think, oh, everyone's got to believe the way I believe,
Mm-hmm.
and then they go tell everyone else, hey, I don't think we should be going in there. And I think kind of the way it tells it is they're basically gossiping. I think they start
Yeah.
making stuff up about not being able to go into the land, and so
And it may have gotten embellished, and it may have gotten bigger than it actually was. And in a way, they turn on Joshua and Caleb. This is a betrayal of them too, because basically they're kind of saying that they're lying.
Yeah.
In a way. So it's a false witness, is what it is.
Right.
And so that is one reason why he gets so angry, is because they're bearing false witness, and he does not like that.
No.
And we know that because we studied the Torah, and we know that he doesn't like the false witness.
Right.
And so I have to feel that Joshua and Caleb felt somewhat betrayed by their own, you think about it. Basically, they went camping in a really nice place. They went to the Mediterranean for a few days to go check it out, basically. And so they probably went to the ocean. I'm thinking, yeah, why would you not? It makes sense that they walked around and checked out, the high parts, the low parts, the wet parts, the dry parts. They went they checked out several things, and it's not. I don't think it's a stretch to say they went to go see the view at the ocean, and I'm sure it had to be.
That was part of the test, right? Go check out the land. Is the land good or bad?
Yeah. And you would assume that they went. And when you do it, when you go on a camping trip with your buddies, usually it's fun and enjoyable, and they probably had stories. I mean, think about today. If you did this, you would have stories with these guys about, hey, remember when we did that? We saw that. You would talk about this. And so it is a betrayal to them, because these are, people they thought, did this cool thing with, and now they get betrayed.
It kind of gives you the idea of how you can all be looking at the same set of facts and come away with something completely different.
Yeah. But the whole lying part thing I hadn't thought about too much until this year, and it makes sense that this is a type of a false witness.
Right.
So Yah is angry. He's ready to divorce. Moses intercedes and turns back Yah's wrath. And but Joshua and Caleb, what does that mean, Jake, that Joshua and Caleb are punished with the rest of them?
So Joshua and Caleb were righteous in their report back and their loyalty to Yah, and yet the whole group turned their back on Yah, and now everybody has to wander the wilderness for 40 years. Not just the people that committed the sin, but there's repercussions that affect those who didn't commit the sin. It's kind of the idea of, well, why does bad stuff happen to good people? Well, this is some bad stuff happening to some good people right here, because the rest of the people screwed it up for everybody, basically.
Yeah. You would like, if you were writing this to have a happy ending, you would probably say, and Joshua and Caleb and all their families got to go into the promised land.
Right.
And they stepped into the promised land. They're like, hey, should have listened to us. You don't see that. And it's because Joshua and Caleb also, I don't think they were that we wouldn't be reading about them in this context if they were like that.
Right.
So they clearly were holy and set apart, and I think they're humble like Moses, and I think it bothered them. They had to be sad. They had to be sad about this situation, that they came so close. Here they are. I mean, this is the goal, right? This is why we came across the desert. This was the promise, and here we are, basically standing on the edge of it, and we mess up right at the last second. And so, it's like the game is on the line, and it's your opportunity to make that closing shot that's going to win the game for all time, and you just airball it terribly for everyone.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think uh, too here, kind of like we said earlier on, the test that's happening, because here Yahweh says, I'm going to strike them with pestilence and all this kind of stuff. And Moses is like, hang on, hang on. The Egyptians will hear about this and say, you brought us out to destroy us, basically. And then Yahweh turns back his wrath. And so I think that's similarly testing Moses. Does Moses have the
Yeah.
people's best interest at heart? And then when, because you don't, we can say as much as we want, oh, this bad situation comes up, this is what I would have done. But you don't really know unless you're in the situation how
Hmm.
you're going to react. So this gives Moses that opportunity to, this is how he's reacting to people essentially, spitting in his face and saying, what you've done for us, we don't care about that anymore. We're going back to Egypt.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's well said, for sure. All right. And so we have another instance in 1529 of one Torah, one law. See last week's portion where we also looked at Galatians 3:28.
Mm-hmm.
And Jake, the Zitzi. How do we get the Zitzi after this?
Yeah, there's kind of a pattern of, so in the beginning, Yah says, okay, love each other. And then people are slapping each other. It's like, well, no. Uh, this is how you love each other, right? And so he tells them, don't be slapping each other. Don't be taking stuff from each other, all that kind of stuff. And now they're like, okay, well, we got all that. And then he's like, oh, also, you have to love me. And part of that is do what I say, listen to what I'm saying. And in order to do that, you have to remember what it is I'm saying. So he gives them the Zitzit and says, now, when you look on this, remember what I said, because just counting on yourself to will it into my memory is not working. You're not going to just try harder. It's not how it works. So you need some kind of thing to help you get through this.
Yeah, no, that's good. So, and it is good to be reminded that that's where it comes from, and it reminds us today because unfortunately we're not that far removed from them and the dumb things that they did, and it's easy to look at them just like you said. I wouldn't do that. I would never do that. Well, we might, and we probably do. We all know we fell short, and don't do the things that we're supposed to from time to time. And it is something in this fallen world, but the ZT is supposed to help us and go, oh, wait a minute, maybe I'm okay. Check myself,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah, I
it's a
think.
reminder. And I think also to me the testimony that really spoke to me because I used to not wear them, and when I read this, every time it would kind of like tick in me a little bit, like, hey, I'm supposed to do that maybe. But the story that convinced me was your story, Jake, of how you met some people in our group at a playground or.
Yeah. My wife
Mhm.
was at the playground, and a woman came up to her and said, "Hey, I like your Zitzits." And my wife's like, "Oh, how do you know what those are?" Because that had never happened to her before. And so then they got to talking, and uh, now that lady joins us for fellowship, and it's lovely.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And so if you wear them, then you do look for other people and you notice it. You notice when someone has the mezuzah on the doorpost, or, you notice those things when you walk up to a house, and it does become a conversation piece. And I've definitely noticed that and had some very pleasant conversations with some people, sometimes people of Jewish faith, and tell them what I do. And they're pretty interested and like, oh, well, they're surprised that I know the things and know the words and that, I'm familiar with it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And you were talking about how, about belief and having a reminder and that kind of thing, and how we have that same capacity to fall into disbelief as they had. The how would I act in that situation? And it's very easy for us to look at them and say they had the pillar of fire, they had the parting of the Red Sea, and yet here they are still essentially denying him, right?
yeah,
Um, and then we say, well, I would never, because, and we go, well, you know, we have the same. We don't have that pillar of fire. Well, you have Messiah. Even Peter had Messiah. He ate with Messiah. He lived with Messiah. He watched the miracles of Messiah and yet still denied him 3 times. So
yeah.
so to say that you wouldn't is way over your skis, I think. So I think we need to be careful about that.
So put in the comments way over your skis, and we know that you made it 26 minutes into
That's
this.
right.
So way over your skis, or put an icon of skis in there.
There you go.
So,
I've never skied.
oh wow,
But
okay.
I hear being over them is bad.
It is bad. You fall down. All right, so I think we've come to the end of Send You or
Shellac.
Numbers 13 through 15. So we encourage you to join the millions of other people reading the Torah portion this week. And Jake, you got anything else?
Yes, also the millions of people subscribing to our channel.
That's right.
So
that the number thing is just like,
yeah, you don't all
clicking.
have to wait to subscribe at once.
But you could. That would be fine if everybody went 1, 2, 3, subscribe.
Right, as long as it's within the next 5 seconds. Go.
Yes.
No. Anyway, share it with your friends. If you found something useful in this, be sure to leave a little comment, and we'll be able to know that this is helping people. So
That's right. That's right. Well, we appreciate your loyalty and checking us out. And this is Matt
and Jake
signing off.